The big game at the weekend is the Dominic Smith Expert Electrical Senior Football Championship Final, and I'm joined by two men who played in the semi-finals at the weekend, Brian Malloy and Liam Rochford. But before we get talking about the strengths and weaknesses of Castletown and the Shelmaliers, just get the lads to reflect a little bit on the season that was for them. And Liam, we'll give you the floor first. If you look back from a St Anne's point of view on the football, what would you make of it?
Yeah, look, the result and the way the match played out yesterday obviously probably takes a gloss off it a bit, but definitely looking back on it, there was definitely a lot of progress made for us this year. First time getting to a senior semi-final since 2014, I think, in 8 years. So obviously being relegated in 2019 and back up last year for the first time in relegation semi-final again. So definitely a lot of progress made this year, but obviously disappointing end to the year. But hopefully we build on the progress and move on again next year.
And your qualification was in the balance right till the very end. It was looking quite dodgy for a while in the Cross the Bay game, and
yeah, well that's the way. The group was very, very tight, and it was everyone beating everyone, and it was very realistically could have been out of the championship, and then as the way it worked out, and finished top of the table, but yeah, no, it's a lot of tight games in the group, but so overall probably, as I said, a lot of progress made, and hopefully we can build on it again.
And Brian, from a St James point of view, how would you sum up your football season?
Sure, at the start we would have obviously set out to get out of the group and get to the quarter final, and obviously get past that, because we haven't got beyond that since we won in 2015, so that was the main aim. But probably at the same time, going into the game yesterday and then obviously suffering defeat, we would have felt we underachieved a little bit, because the goal was ultimately to get to a final, I suppose. But overall, this time last year we were playing in the dreaded relegation final, so we can't complain too bad. Integrated nicely young lads, so hopefully we can build on that next year and go one step further maybe.
And your side of the group was a little bit more clear cut. Everyone knew you were qualified going into the final round.
Yeah.
So that made it even more difficult to judge how yourselves and Castletown will compare, because your last game was sort of a dead rubber.
Yeah, the last game we played Castletown, obviously we both through, so it's kind of a bit like a glorified practice match, I suppose. Lacked a bit of intensity and could have went either way. But at the same time we knew then what we'd get with them yesterday. They're compact at the back, very defensive, solid unit, and couldn't break it down. But it was a bit strange. I was playing so close there, but yeah, they're a good side.
And if we look then, I suppose, at the games yesterday, Liam, you were involved in the game against the Shelmaliers. What obviously it was a big victory for the Shelmaliers, but what did you make of them yesterday?
Yeah, look, there's no denying it. They're a very, very good team. We played with a bit of a breeze in the first half, and it was probably nip and tuck for most of it. Went in 2 points down. Maybe had a couple of wides, but in reality we had a bit of a breeze, so we would have had to go in probably ahead of half time. They got 1 goal in the first half, but look, their support play and their runners, they're very, very direct, and they even tore us open a couple of times in the first half. They didn't actually convert it. Then the first 5 or 10 minutes second half, they went in for 2 goals, and we probably lay down a bit too easy then and let them steamroll us for the rest of the game. Yeah.
And in terms of yesterday, your game, you mentioned a little bit about Castletown's strengths already, Brian, but what really impressed you about Castletown yesterday in particular?
Just think they're so well balanced across the field. Their transition from defence to attack is very, very fast, and they're so compact at the back in their structure, very, very difficult to break down. They don't leave many gaps or holes, and even when they come into our half and we turn them over, against most teams, if you break quick you'll find space, but they always leave an extra couple of plus defenders back. So even when you turn them over and break at speed, they still have numbers, and they get back very, very quickly in transition from defence to attack.
And even when they went down to 14, it didn't seem to affect them an awful lot, because their defence was so structured, and they were able to keep the ball so well.
Yeah, they just didn't have Ben, I suppose, up top from that, but they just still stayed the very same structure in defence, and that's really what they pride themselves on. Most of their games seem to be low scoring, very, very difficult to break down, like I said, and obviously not having Ben there was obviously nice from our point of view, because he's such a threat up top, but still didn't make it any easier whatsoever to break him down on the other side.
And your thoughts on Castletown then, Liam? It's probably a few years since you actually played him, but I'm sure you've seen plenty of him.
Yeah, no, we haven't actually happened to play him in championship in the last few years, the way the draw has worked out, but yeah, look, they're it's fair to say they're probably the 2 best teams in the championship are in the final, and probably the best placed team to give Shells a really good game. Their style with bodies back, is probably what's going to be necessary to try and stifle Shells in terms of their goal threat. Like so, obviously, with the quite possibly missing Ben for the final is going to be a massive loss for them with his red card yesterday. So that will be a big blow for them.
And you played the Shelmaliers in round 2, Brian, and it was actually a fairly close game, and it was still there to be taken. Where do you feel that the Shelmaliers could be got at, really?
Trying to stop them getting their kickouts away is definitely a big thing. I think when we played them in the first half, they got 8 of their own 9 kickouts away, and in the second half we pushed up better. And like primary possession is so key, because when they have it, like Liam was saying, they're so good at running the ball through the hands at pace and like really cutting you open at defence. So trying to win primary ball and like dominate possession side of things, because if they have the lion's share of possession, very difficult to come out the right side of the match.
One thing on the Castletown, when Castletown are defending a kick out, I noticed that they're almost putting 4 in their full forward line, and Brendan Halpin sort of pushes in and makes it forward. It's a very strange sort of a tactic, but it seems to be working for them, Castletown, at the moment.
Yeah, it is. They're the only team that we played against that did that. Like, we knew they were going to do it again, but it is, they put 4 up. Now sometimes they can be a little bit static in the 4, so they do leave pockets, but at the same time they're risky. You know, the keeper has to make sure they're 100% on, and if you get it, then you're swarmed with pressure, and obviously if they turn it over there, it's probably going to lead to a score and maybe a major score as well.
And naturally, I suppose Castletown are maybe pushing their 4 lads in forward because they want the opposition goalkeeper to kick it down towards Liam Coleman and Rory Heffernan, but the Shelmaliers have a couple of guys out around the middle that can do equally as well under the kick out.
Yeah, no, they do. They've Sean King-Carroll and Owen Nolan in the middle of the field are well able to field ball as well, but look, they got away a lot of short kickouts against us, and it's something that they were looking to do. And like Craig is not afraid to give it. Some of them, they didn't look like, a lot of keepers might not have given them. They wouldn't have been 100% on, you'd say, but they're not afraid to give it, and they can just. If they get primary possession, they will work it up the pitch, and they've obviously worked on it, and they're very comfortable doing it.
And we have a supporter going down past us there, so that's good to see. Hopefully there won't be any more of them, but. The other thing that any team really needs to have, Brian, to win the championship is a good panel, and it seems that both of these teams, more particularly, I think it's probably fair to say that the Shelmaliers in particular have an awful lot of lads that can come in and not weaken the thing very much for them.
Yeah, if anything, there are subs that come in, add to when they come in, because obviously the opposition's getting a bit more tired. Fresh legs coming in, serious strength of a panel. Like all the boys that come in can change the game. Castletown are the same. Like, they probably do have the 2 strongest panels in the championship, and that's probably a major factor in why they're both in final as well.
And if you were to look at sort of big battles in this game, Liam, who would you think? We have the 2 lineouts from the semi-finals written down here now, and obviously we're not 100% sure if they'll be the teams that will actually start the game. There could be injuries, there could be tactical switches, whatever. If you were to look at those now, what would be the key battles you would see there?
Yeah, well, like, it's kind of the way it's played now at the moment. It's there's not too many individual battles with players on players. Like, it's not a 15 lads playing in their position anymore. Like, it's very tactical or whatever. Like, in Castletown probably will look to congest the thing in their defence, and that probably will ultimately decide the game. Like, as in, obviously Shell scored 5 goals against us and got 3 against Starlights. They really seem to focus maybe on the first 5 or 10 minutes of either half and go for the juggler, go for the majors, and if they get them, they can manage the game very well. They'll hold possession, they'll play it through their line back to the keeper and hold on to it. So if Castletown can look to get bodies back and stifle their goal threat, it'll go a long way to making it a very competitive game. Like.
And Brian, your thoughts on that as well, in terms of, are there any matchups even? Or is it just has it just gone to the stage now where it's just about the team and the system?
It's a lot of it for these 2, yeah. Probably more so on Castletown side, that they will put serious numbers back, and then when players come in, then they'll be picked up. But they seem to always have more defenders in their half than the opposition has attackers. But then Shells are so good at working it up through the middle too, that it might suit Shells that Castletown might invite them onto them. But probably the main individual battles could probably be in midfield, I'd say. Rory and Liam had big games against us yesterday, and if they get on top of Sean King-Carroll and Owen Nolan, that could go a long way. Dara Brooks possessed a serious kick out. Obviously does a strong win in Wexford Park yesterday, and
even into the wind, they were going into your half.
Oh, well into our half, yeah. So he can bypass areas and look for pockets, and he can beat any press that they put on. So that's a major advantage if Castletown can win their own long takeouts, because they're in Shell's half and they're on the attack straight away if that happens. But Castletown as well kind of seem to leave two up top, so you might see a bit of an individual battle if Shells push on, and if they don't leave maybe a couple of extra defenders back, because they all like to get forward, and if it's a quick turnover, you might see Robbie Brooks and maybe Donegal Holmes, or Ben if he's playing maybe inside 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 with the defence, so those inside battles could go a long way as well.
And we can talk about systems, I suppose, all we like, and plans all we like, but the main objective of the game is to get the ball over the bar or into the goal. And the Shelmaliers seem to be more spread out in the different guys that they have scoring for them, Liam, but you know, when you have forwards like Owen O'Gara to add into what they had last year, it makes an awful difference.
Yeah, look, Owen has been a massive addition for him. Like, even you're talking about matchups there, like we were trying to get our matchups right before the game, and usually for a team you'll say you'll pick out 2, maybe 3 players to try and stifle, and that might go a long way to winning the game. But they've just got so many similar players like Glenn Malone and Simon Donoghue from halfback, Jody Donoghue, Conor Hearn, Arnie, all these lads, they'll run at you like they're so direct, they'll run at you, and they're well able to take it into contact, and there's 2-3 support runners off their shoulder as well, like, so it's got very, very similar players, and it's very hard to stifle so many runners off the shoulder, like.
Yeah, and the Castletown defensive system seems to be a good one, but their scorers are a little bit more focused on Robbie Brooks and Ben Brosnan. Robbie is the top scorer in the championship from play. I think he has 5'8", and Ben has 2'11". So there were probably less scoring options for a Castletown point of view. It might be easier for the Shelmaliers to handle them.
Yeah, that's true, and obviously if Ben's not playing, that will obviously weaken Castletown's scoring threat majorly, but Castletown tend to have more low scoring games, so like that probably they'll hope that that'll be the case, but Shelmaliers have been so spread out, like that's obviously from a manager's point of view, like that's what you want plenty of players scoring. They're getting scores from their half back line, midfield, all the way up, all the forwards are popping over with scores, so you know, Castletown will be looking at that and they'll be looking, where will I stop? And like Liam said, it's so hard to stop so many runs and so many players looking to get scores. If so many shooters, you can't nail down a few, whereas maybe if Shelmaliers maybe stop those 1 or 2 on Castletown side, they might find it hard to get the ball over the bar.
These two teams played out a game earlier in the group stages. It was a double header that was one of the few games that wasn't streamed, actually. Castletown and the Shelmaliers, and St Anne's and Gusheron. I think it was the same day, Liam. Did you manage to see much of the previous matchup of this?
I didn't actually see much of the game, but I understand it was 1-7 to 1-4 or something.
1-8 to 1-6.
Yeah,
that was
and it was quite low scoring or whatever. But I think the Shells maybe did most of their scoring in the first half, and they were trying to hold on to the ball and just see out the game, and they actually probably allowed Castletown back into the game a bit, I suppose. Castletown maybe sat back a bit, and Shells were just trying to play out the clock. So yeah, that would be kind of a bit of a taster for what you might get to see next Sunday in the county final. But it'll be interesting to see how it does play out.
So it's I suppose it's nearly prediction time now, Brian. First of all, who do you think is going to win, and what sort of a margin do you think it might be?
I think it'll be tight. Castletown will probably be hoping for a low scoring game. If they get ahead early, it will suit their system because they'll be compact, whereas if they go behind, they might have to come out at Shells, and then that's when they're so dangerous on the break and with their running game. I probably would just give it to Shells by maybe 3 points or so.
And Liam, what way are you going to go with it?
Yeah, look, Brian's made a lot of good points there. If Shells do get ahead of you, like they're well able to manage and see out the game, so it'll be very important for Castletown to keep it tight early doors and try and stop them getting goals. Look, you know, you can't ignore how much of a loss Ben Brosnan will be for them, provided he's not playing. But I'd probably give Shells the nod, maybe by 4 or 5 points.
And when the two teams did meet in the group stages, I think one of the most impressive things of the whole season was that Castletown managed to keep the Shelmaliers scoreless for 45 minutes in that game. I think the Shelmaliers had won 7 after 15 minutes and didn't score again until injury time in the second half. I think Castletown are going to need a repeat of that type of game, a very low scoring type of a game. I think if it's more open, I think the Shelmaliers have more pace and power, and I think they could win the game quite comfortably. So if Castletown can keep it tight, I think they'll be thereabouts going into the last 10 minutes, but I still expect the Shelmaliers to win the game by maybe 3 or 4 points.